At the grand ballroom, glittering chandeliers cast a golden glow over the most exclusive charity gala of the year. Cameras flashed, reporters whispered, and every socialite waited for the billionaire to take the first dance, a tradition that signaled the start of the evening. But tonight he stood stone-faced, refusing every offer, ignoring every outstretched hand. Whispers turned into murmurs of judgment, gossip swirling like wildfire. Then the heavy doors creaked open. And in walked the black custodian, holding her young daughter's hand, both still in work clothes. What happened next left the entire room in stunned silence and changed everything. What would you have done if you were in that ballroom? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a story that challenges society and inspires change. The ballroom glistened under crystal chandeliers, filled with the city's elite dressed in glittering gowns and sharp tuxedos. It was the charity gala of the year, hosted by one of the most powerful billionaires in the country. Guests whispered in hushed tones as the man himself entered, tall, stoic, and intimidating in presence. He was known for his wealth, his power, and his cold refusal to mingle beyond what was necessary. Tonight, everyone knew the moment would come when he would be asked to dance, a tradition at this annual event. Yet he had turned down every dance request for years. Rumor had it that he didn't believe anyone was worthy to share the floor with him. Meanwhile, at the far end of the venue, a woman in a plain uniform quietly worked, collecting empty glasses from tables and wiping up spills before the next course was served. She was a custodian, invisible to most of the crowd, though she had attended this same gala for years, always in the background, always silent. Her young daughter, dressed in a simple but neat dress, had been allowed to stay by her side since she couldn't find childcare. The little girl clutched her mother's hand tightly, watching the glittering spectacle with wide, curious eyes. As the music swelled and the host announced the first dance, all eyes turned to the billionaire. Guests held their breath, wondering if this would finally be the year he chose a partner. What no one could have predicted was that his gaze would wander past the crowd of wealthy socialites and land on the small girl standing near the edge of the room. In that instant, something in his expression changed. The billionaire's sharp eyes stayed fixed on the girl, causing murmurs to ripple through the crowd. Guests exchanged puzzled glances. Was he truly looking past them all? The girl, sensing the attention, instinctively stepped behind her mother's leg, peeking out nervously. The custodian immediately felt the tension in the air, embarrassed that her daughter was even near the dance floor. She gently nudged her child back toward the service area, trying to avoid drawing any further attention. But the billionaire took a step forward, then another. His polished shoes echoed against the marble floor as he crossed the room, the chatter of the guests turning into stunned silence. The music stopped mid-note. The host's voice faltered. No one had ever seen the billionaire approach anyone, let alone a staff member. The custodian froze, her heart pounding. She wasn't supposed to be seen. She wasn't supposed to be noticed. In this room, she was just part of the background. Memories of past humiliation flashed in her mind. The times when wealthy guests treated her as though she didn't exist, or worse, as though she was beneath them. She braced herself, expecting a reprimand for letting her child stay so close to the festivities. But the billionaire didn't scold her. Instead, he looked down at the little girl and then extended his hand toward the custodian. The room gasped as if one collective breath had been stolen away. Surely this was a mistake. He was inviting her onto the dance floor. The woman's first instinct was to refuse. This couldn't be real. She had been working on her feet all day. Her uniform still smelled faintly of cleaning chemicals, and her shoes were worn from hours of labor. The idea of standing next to the wealthiest man in the city in front of hundreds of guests seemed absurd. The host, sensing the tension, urged the orchestra to resume playing softly. The billionaire did not lower his hand, his expression unyielding. It was not a command, but an invitation, one that was as shocking as it was impossible to ignore. Slowly, almost hesitantly, the custodian stepped forward, her daughter still clinging to her. Whispers erupted around the room, some curious, some disapproving. People had come to see glamour, and here was a woman in a simple uniform being offered the first dance. As the billionaire led them onto the floor, something shifted in the air. The music swelled again, this time slower, softer, more reverent. The girl's eyes lit up as if the moment was a fairy tale come true. The mother's palms were sweating, her heart racing. Not just because of the surrealness of the moment, but because she could feel the weight of every pair of eyes in the room judging her. For the first time that night, the billionaire seemed almost human, not the untouchable figure everyone feared. The tension in the room grew thicker. Guests weren't sure whether to clap, gossip, or simply watch in stunned silence. The music swirled through the room as the billionaire took the custodian's trembling hand. The first steps were hesitant, awkward even, but then something extraordinary happened. The little girl giggled. It was a sound so pure and unguarded that it broke the heaviness of the room. The billionaire's expression softened in a way no one had ever seen. He bent slightly, guiding the child to stand between them. Then, with a gentleness that stunned the audience, he let the girl lead the next step. Whispers turned into gasps. The most powerful man in the room was letting a janitor's daughter guide him. Guests began pulling out their phones, some in awe, others in disbelief, capturing every second of what was happening. The custodian could feel her face flush, a mix of pride and disbelief. Every step she took was a step against years of invisibility, years of being told she did not belong in spaces like this. As the dance continued, the girl became more confident, twirling and laughing, her small shoes clicking softly against the marble. The billionaire never stopped smiling, not the cold, polite smile of a man used to power, but the genuine smile of someone rediscovering something they had lost long ago. The orchestra, sensing the gravity of the moment, slowed the music even further, as if giving everyone in the room a chance to take in what they were witnessing. For many guests, this was the first time they had truly seen the custodian. Not as the woman who cleared tables, but as a mother, a human being, someone worthy of standing in the spotlight. Some began to clap softly, the sound growing louder until the entire room was applauding. The custodian's hands shook, tears welling in her eyes, not from embarrassment, but from the overwhelming realization that she was no longer invisible. When the music finally stopped, the billionaire bowed slightly to her and her daughter. The room erupted into a standing ovation, something that had never happened before at one of his events. The custodian stood frozen, breathless, realizing this single moment had changed not just her night, but possibly her entire life. When the applause finally faded, the billionaire didn't just return to his table, he called the custodian and her daughter to sit with him. The room went silent again, stunned. No one had ever been invited to share the billionaire's table, not even his highest-paying guests. It was a gesture that shattered every unspoken social barrier in the room. For the custodian, it felt as though the world had turned upside down. The same people who barely looked at her while she cleared their dishes were now staring at her with something resembling respect. Word of the event spread beyond that ballroom. The videos that had been taken went viral within hours, sparking conversations across social media and news outlets. People were talking not just about the billionaire's unexpected dance, but about the deeper meaning behind it, the idea that no one is too important to treat others with dignity. Comment sections flooded with stories of people who had once been overlooked, mistreated, or judged for their race or social status. In the days that followed, the billionaire took things further. He announced a new scholarship program for the children of service workers, making sure that opportunities would never be out of reach simply because of someone's job title or income level. He personally invited the custodian's daughter to be the first recipient, promising to cover her education from that day until college. For the custodian, the memory of that night would stay with her forever. She returned to work the next day, but something had changed. She no longer kept her eyes low when she walked through the hallways. People greeted her by name now. She carried herself differently, not because of fame, but because she had been reminded of her own worth. The billionaire, too, was changed. For the first time in years, he stayed until the end of the party, speaking to guests, shaking hands, and even thanking the staff by name. It wasn't just about a dance. It was about rewriting an entire narrative. And maybe that's the question we're left with. How many lives could change if we stopped seeing people by their status and started seeing them for who they truly are?